You're ready to see glass break? You're in the right spot. Well, my name's Claire. I'm going to break a bunch of stuff for you and talk about it. And we're really going to focus on, with this demonstration, is how glass can be strengthened or how it can be weakened depending on how it's heated up or cooled down. A lot happens to glass as it experiences changes in temperature, but it's not something that we really see with our bare eyes because it's all happening on the atomic level. And yes, you can wave to yourself in the camera, so we'll just do that now. Okay. The main foundation of glass is as it heats, it starts to expand, and when it cools, it shrinks or contracts. Again, all of this movement is happening within the molecular structure of the glass, so we can't see it. But what we will be able to see is how the glass reacts to these changes in temperature. So I'm just heating a ring along the top of this glass here. Where I'm heating, the glass is starting to expand, but the rest of it is still room temperature, so it's not allowing the heated portions to fully expand how they would like to. This is creating stress within the glass because it's fighting with itself. But if I continue to build heat up, I'll be able to control how the glass breaks based on how much heat I introduce and where I locate that heat. It will actually be very, very easy for me to break the glass. Are you impressed? That good? That's glass breaking. Cool, huh?
Like how they do with wine glass.
There's more, don't worry.
Make them into cups.
So what happened here is that ring of stress. I got a little bit of water on my finger and I just touched it. The water caused the glass to cool very quickly, and that created a chain reaction which shocked the glass and created a very clean, even break. This is a technique we use a lot in the glass industry. It's called hot popping. We use it in production glass studios when we're making the same type of glass, and we need them all to be the same height with even tones. We also use this method to cut fluorescent tubing. And really, it's just by using the properties of the glass, which I think is quite interesting. So I mentioned that this glass has been stressed out and that we can't see it, but there is a way around that. We have a device called a polariscope. And how it works is there's a white light in the back of this box that shines through two panels. The front and back panel are both covered with a sheet of polarized film. This combination allows us to see stress. But when I go and pop the remainder of the glass in our polariscope, we don't see stress just yet. That's because this glass and most of the glass we use in our everyday lives undergoes a slow cool down called annealing. That word might be sounding a little familiar if you've seen another show. Annealing just prolongs the glass cool down, so it allows all the atoms within the glass to shrink together, and that eliminates stress and stabilizes it, which is good. We don't want to see stress in the glass we're using in our day-to-days. We want it to look like this glass here. But for you to see stress, I'm going to fire the torch up one more time and heat a small spot on the bottle. You'll see a pattern of light dark form. That's our stress. Again, where I'm heating, it's expanding. The rest of the glass won't allow that full expansion because it's rigid and cold. As I continue to talk about stress, there's really two main types that we're going to focus on with this demonstration. The first type is called compression or pushing stress. If I keep pushing on this block of foam, do you think I'm going to be able to break it? Nope. I'm actually making the foam quite a bit stronger by putting it under compression. And the same is true with glass. Glass under compression can be incredibly strong. So strong, in fact, it can hold 3 elephants worth of weight. And we have a prime example of that in our contemporary gallery. If you haven't already, you should go check out the glass bridge. It's not here forever, it's just passing through. But that's a bridge made entirely out of glass panels, and it utilizes the strength of compression. It's incredibly strong. But glass can also be very weak, especially if it's under tension or cooling stress. So if I keep pulling on the foam, eventually I'm going to rip it in half. Glass under tension can be very fragile and brittle. Like this in my hand, which is our oldest relic in the museum, the plastic CD case. Do we still know what this is? Maybe not. Someone does. That's a good picture. These are incredibly easy to break, and it's not really your fault. The way they're produced is hot plastic is dropped into a mold, and when it's molded to this shape, it's left in the air to cool, which means it's cooling unevenly, which means it's actually really loaded with stress. So that's why it's very easy to break. I have to show you this amount of stress in plastic because glass with this much stress would break at any given point, and it would break violently. So plastic won't do that, but you can still see that nice rainbow of colors. This happens because the thicker areas hold on to heat longer and take slower to cool down, where the thin areas cool off more rapidly and shrink more rapidly. And that uneven cooling creates stress. But we will pop back over to glass because it is the museum class after all. We have 4 different types of glass that we're going to destroy. The first is window glass. This is ordinary window glass. It's what bottles, pickle jars, drinking glasses, art glass is made out of. It's the same glass that the glass blowers in the amphitheater are using to make their pieces. 3 key ingredients make up the composition of this glass, and it has been annealed. So in the polariscope, no stress, nice and stable. We do know that glass is kind of a fragile material under some circumstances, and with enough force it likes to break pretty easily. Our second piece is called safety glass or laminated glass. Laminated glass is 2 sheets of window glass, but in between those sheets of glass is a small layer of plastic. And you can see that plastic layer a little more clearly on our big screen. It's that little hairline right in the center. Now again, all the plastic in the glass have been annealed, so there's no stress within this piece, but when we go to break it, you're going to see what a key role the plastic plays and how the glass is designed to break. Our third piece is one of our stronger pieces. This is called tempered glass. Tempered glass is exactly the same as window glass, but what makes this piece much stronger than window glass is how it's cooled. Once it's annealed the first time, it's then reheated a second time, but just to where it gets a little soft, not melted. When it reaches that temperature, there's a grid of air that jets air on both sides, and that cools the surface very, very quickly and creates strong compression. But the core is still hot, so it traps a lot of tension stress. You can see this light and dark pattern though looks a little more even, and that's because it is controlled stress. Our final object is called a Bologna vial. Has anyone ever heard of that before? Of course not. It's because these are useless objects. There's no known use for them. So why they exist, nobody really knows. It's really just a hollow egg of glass. And since they're useless, you can't buy them. So we have our hot glass team make them for us so we can smash them at this show. What they do is they get a little hot glass off the end of a pipe, blow air into it, and allow gravity to slump it into the egg shape. Once it's formed into this shape, they leave it in the open air to cool. So much like our CD case, we're going to see a pretty similar pattern of light, that rainbow color. Because the thicker areas in the core hold on to heat longer, the surface and the thin areas cool off more rapidly. And now it's time to break everything. So I'm going to start with our window glass. We have these really nifty pins so we can smash the glass very easily. This seems familiar to us, right? We get these lovely hazardous shards and fragments of broken glass that sound sent to a pit to your stomach. Window glass or annealed glass will always break this way. Because it's been stabilized, it breaks in a very sharp pattern. So we don't want to use this type of glass for all of our glass needs, particularly the windshields of our cars. I can leave it up to your imagination to conjure up what would happen if our windshields were made of this glass and broke at our driving speeds. That is a disgusting thought. So that's why we have safety glass. When we break the safety glass, we see a very similar fragmentation pattern. But even after a couple blows, it's still going to stay intact because of that plastic layer. It holds all the shards together. And I can even flex this piece now, and it's still going to stay intact. So this is going to keep us safer in our vehicles, and it's the same technology used to make bullet-resistant glass. Bullet-resistant glass is just more layers of glass and plastic, and much thicker layers of glass can stop a bullet. So it's pretty wild. All right, now it's time for our tempered glass. This one is 5 times stronger, so let's see what happens when it breaks. It's supposed to be 5 times stronger, right? So why did it break so easily? Because we cheat. How we cheat is this pin has a small point on the top. That point is necessary in order to break the glass. I have tested it and put it in the center one, and this pin just bounces off the surface because it's that strong. So the point pierces through that outer shell of compression and releases all the fragile tension. And the glass breaks very violently, but because it breaks so violently, it breaks in a uniform pattern. These little cube formations happen, and the glass literally just crumbles. But because it breaks so evenly, I can't actually cut myself on this glass. So we use tempered glass wherever. If the glass were to break, it would do so in the safest possible way, like the side and rear windows of our cars, which is why you need that little tool to break those windows. It has some points like our pin. It's also used on basketball baseboards, refrigerator shelving, shower doors, patio tables. Seriously, it's everywhere. Alrighty, now we're on to the Bologna vial. This one I'm going to try to break through the top of this large steel rod. I can't break it this way. And that's because of compression. Left in the air to cool, the outer surface cools first, creates that strong exterior compression. We can take a nice chip out of the top though, so. But there is a little hole on the other side left behind from when they're made. That gives us access to the inside surface, which should be quite easy to break actually because of tension. It's like pulling a rubber band so tight that if you just drop a pin or flick it and it snaps, because glass doesn't infinitely contract. Once it reaches room temperature, the atom stops shrinking. So the surface shrunk first, but the core didn't have a chance to. So it's stuck to that outer surface, creates all that tension, and that's the end of our object and the end of our demonstration. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed.